The Ark of the Covenant is a portal passage. It's a portal passage that has been, used to come down in Atlantis, but now, since the Atlantean period where the grids were damaged, it was moved to Giza, Egypt. It's right literally under the Great Pyramid. And there was a certain thing that needed to happen with the Ark of the Covenant. It had to activate because of certain frequencies hitting it for the Stargate opening cycle to actually take place this time. But before we get into understanding the complexities, we need to understand a little bit more of the history, how the sequencing took place. And we need to understand some of the events are actually funny. I mean, when you look at this from a higher perspective, and you look at what the real history records were, we've been given literally like probably a couple thousand pages on the history records at this point. Only little bits of it have made its way into the books yet. But ever since what they call the Ark of the Covenant gold box. Now there's a difference. I mentioned the Ark of the Covenant before as a portal passage that comes down in through Giza. It was a portal passage that was used for seeding of the souls and seeding of the seeding 3 races. They came through the Ark of the Covenant. Now it's a portal passage, and the information on the creation of the Ark of the Covenant and the seedings before it and all of that, they're in Voyages Volume 2. They were in the original printing of Voyages Volume 2. The Ark of the Covenant gold box, you know, that gold box you hear about, you know, in the legends and stuff, the quest for the big gold box. The box itself is not the Ark of the Covenant. That was one of the history twists, where the box had to do with the Ark of the Covenant, because what was in the box could open the Ark of the Covenant. But there was a difference. The portal passage, Ark of the Covenant, it led up through, let's see, which stargates, it went up through through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It did a spiral like this up to D9, Andromeda. All right. Now the gold box in the Forbidden Book that's coming out, we call it the Forbidden Book, the Forbidden Testaments of Revelation. They get much more into the story of the Ark box. It was created right after the 9558B flood that had been orchestrated by the fallen angelics. It was created and given to the Magi Grail line races, in order to, the Indigo races, to allow them to have open contact through the Ark of the Covenant with the Inner Earth races, because at that point the Inner Earth portals were shut because the invasion couldn't very easily go into the Inner Earth territories. Inside the Ark of the Covenant gold box, there were 2 tools, one called the rod, one called the staff. When they were used together, they could generate enough frequency to manually activate the CDD plate discs, which could then activate the signet shields. So together, all these things could be used as manual portal control and Stargate control. So this began the real fiasco when this box was created with these tools in it. Because now there was a way that the fallen angelics, if they could bring those elements together, if they could capture at least one of the plates and shields and capture the rod and the staff in the gold box, they would be able to use one of the higher calibrated Stargates to blow up Stargate 12. They could literally take over the planet. And there has been a Grail quest that involved the Ark of the Covenant gold box literally since that time. I won't get into the whole history of it now because it's not even in this particular book. It will be in the Forbidden Book that's coming out hopefully by the end of this year. But it's hysterical when you see it. Who's got the box now? These guys had it, then these guys stole it, then these guys stole it from them, and these guys got it back. Then these guys took one of the elements out of it, but the other ones took this back. It was like absolutely crazy. It was like one of those old comedy movies where everybody's like running around like you know, nuts, and you just say, you know, this is really, really stupid. That's what's been going on. It went all through the Egyptian dynasties. It went through through Israel and all of this stuff with Solomon's Temple. The Solomon's Temple story was hysterical. They blew their own temple up, you know, because they were trying to get the Ark of the Covenant box that had been stolen and stuck under it. And they were trying to levitate it out with a spaceship, and they managed to blow up Solomon's Temple. I mean, the history here is a riot, but it's also sad. And what's really sad is the little bit of it that has come down through what we call the Bible, and there's some little bits of it in the Koran and those kind of things. There's little bits here and there. But we get into the Atlantean conspiracy. I'm going to run down, we've mentioned some of these events as went through the first part of that. This is going back a little bit further. Now, some of the Atlantean history is in Voyagers, Volume 2 as well, where it tells how Atlantis was first a large continent, and then certain things were done with the Illuminati races that created major implosions of their massive crystal pylon technologies that ended up sinking portions of the land and literally sucking part of it down in the Phantom Matrix. Well, the reason I can't find a lot of it, like where is that continent? Because literally it demanifested through the grids and was pulled into the black hole system. So they're going to have a hard time finding all of Atlantis because part of it's down there. Now, Atlantis turned into an island community, large islands, and they were Lohas up in the northeast. There was Rua Atlantis down in the south, a little bit west, and there was Nohasa. The whole Noah story came out of Nohasa Atlantis and the Illuminati race lines that were coming out of there. When we get into this history, we start to find out what the Exodus was about in the Bible. And you know what's so sad? This is one of the things that I just feel so bad for the Jewish people, because they have been conned into believing that was them. It wasn't even a Jewish Exodus. It was the Hyksos, Knights Templar, Illuminati, Leviathan races that were getting kicked out of Egypt by a competing force of draconian Illuminati races. The history here has been so twisted. So we're going to start to unravel that twist, because these twists are in our memory banks on a race level, which means they're in our DNA as twisted codes. They're also in our radial bodies. The radial body is a part of our 15-dimensional anatomy that, you know how we've talked about 𝐁𝐒𝐒 bodies, those, circles of energy around us, the three-dimensional egg-shaped spheres of energy around us. Well, around each one of those, there's something called a radial body. The radial body is created, it is formed of what are called muons and trion units. They are pre-light, pre-sound units. The radial body becomes very important. Planets have them too, universes have them, harmonic universes. The radial bodies hold the memory imprint of a person or a species or a planet. The distortions that we have now in our DNA template, thanks to the planetary grids, have totally distorted the natural pictures, memory pictures, the digital coding that would give us our natural memory. That's why we don't remember any of it, and they've progressively been recoding it to match Nibiruan memory. So by the time we got in here, they got back in here, we would simply look at them and know them as if they were our creator gods. So this whole thing comes back to, if we learn this history, and we see what's being done, we can unravel what was done. We can unravel it in our minds, but also in our gene codes, which means we're going to heal our radial bodies through bringing these frequencies of the true history records in. It'll help to heal the memory twists and the blank spots that are in our radial bodies. By doing that, we'll be able to run more frequency. And when we can understand what has been done here, that's the only way we're going to understand how we can fix it. How is a round table going to fix all this mess, and how is all this mess related to, the pieces of it? How are they related? So we're going to find out about that as we progress through the history. We'll go from the history into the technologies that we're used to do this, and into what we can do to begin the process of healing it.